Hello Year 6, welcome back. Hope you had a lovely weekend. Today's session for our literacy, we're continuing our Teaching Live blog challenge. This is blog challenge number 2, remembering that our session this week is on Wednesday, so we need to get our blogs in by tomorrow, which will be Tuesday by the time you watch this. So for our writing today, what we will be doing is we're beginning to form our poem using our different senses. So thinking about what we can smell, what we can taste, what we could hear. And we would like some sentences that link to our senses. Not all of them. You've already made a good start thinking about what you can see anyway with those descriptions in terms of the shapes using simile, metaphor, etc. that you did on Friday. Then tomorrow's session will be about checking for spelling, punctuation and grammar, and then uploading it to the blog, ready for our session on Wednesday. With tomorrow's session, I've put Tuesday morning. The earlier you get your blogs in, the better. What we learnt last week is they take a while to grant permission for them to be put onto the website. So the sooner we get them in, so Tuesday early morning would be the best. For you to do that spelling, punctuation and grammar check, and also respond to any feedback that you may have had from either myself, Mr. Virrell, or Mrs. Hart, depending on who's marking the assignments. Probably myself, but it may be that we all take a look if there's a lot that needs to be done. So what you've been asked to do already so far, you were given this sheet, and again this sheet has been attached for you to look at if you have lost it, and you were asked to choose a dragon to describe, and then you filled in the grid last week. The reason why these pictures of dragons were chosen, so just as a reminder, is because it's really important that you consider the scene when you are writing about the dragon. It's not you describing the scene, but it's about you describing the position of the dragon within that scene. So let's take these two, for example. So this dragon here, it's hunched over, it's protecting the treasure, thinking about the position of that wing. You could say it's a protective shroud across the treasure, almost like a protective blanket maybe. Whereas alternatively, the wings of the position of this dragon, who's in a more upright position, the wings you could say like an umbrella, like a canopy, like a parachute. So when we were in class last week, when I was in class teaching the children, we spoke about all the different positions that the dragon's in, because in this mountain scenario is very different to this up in the sky scenario, or this dragon in the cave, and every time the position of the legs is different, the position of the wings is different, and you need to be able to be thinking about using that figurative language which we spoke about last week. So those similes, those metaphors, thinking about the personification that you can use to help describe the positioning of the dragon. That's really important. So you should have chosen one of those pictures to describe. The easiest thing to do would be to continue describing that picture. So we're going to begin putting our sentences from Friday into a poem. So here are some examples of the poems that you have attached. This is the main one we're going to be working with today. And I will describe that this is called a spine poem. We'll be working on a spine poem today. I've given you all of them attached just so that you can have a read through them. Just then it gives you an idea about what your poem could look like. And the reason why I've boxed off the top sentences is because our first focus is going to be on that initial introductory sentence. Okay, so for example, the first sentence to introduce the poem needs to set the scene and be a general sentence about the dragon. This could be its movement, okay, so thinking about that position. Similarly though, this will be the same for that ending sentence. It will be a general sentence, and I'll talk a bit more about spine poems so you understand that. Okay, so obviously last Friday I worked on this picture here of this dragon, and that's the one we're going to be continuing working with today. Okay, so first of all, I tried to think about the whole image, the whole picture, the fact that the dragon was flying. So I considered the background. So the background of this image is sky and clouds. The clouds I think look quite enraged and angry. So I've kept that in mind. I then thought about verbs to do with its movement. So I thought that appropriate ones could be creeping, soaring, stalking, flying, preying, as in when you're a predator and you're looking for prey, trailing, shadowing, prancing, hovering, gliding. I did use a thesaurus to help me also come up with some better words than I originally started with. And then I started thinking about the description of the actual dragon. So things that I could note just about its general appearance is that it has quite a skeletal appearance. So you're seeing that skeleton on the an exoskeleton on the outside. It just looks very aggressive. I was trying to use the word blue, but I chose the cerulean blue because I just thought blue was a bit boring. I think it looks like it's a bit of a parachute. It could mimic an eagle in the sky. I thought it might be a bit of a canopy again. I noted that it is glowing. I then said about a flame flickering, luminesque. It looks spiky like a serrated knife, and it's saw-toothed. So sawtooth is literally, if you imagine a saw and the teeth of the saw, and I'm talking about literally the tool, it looks a bit like that. So that's just some overall descriptors that I came up with for what the dragon looks like as a whole. And they do relate to its position. So thinking about the fact that it's in the sky, I wouldn't have said a parachute if it was on the floor, if it was stood. Okay. What I then did is I chose the words or the images that I liked the best. So I've highlighted them here. They're the ones that I just thought I could potentially use. Like my favourite verb out of them all was stalking, because I felt like the dragon really looks like it's stalking in the sky. And then in terms of the description, I liked skeletal, because I also thought skeletal linked to the overall picture of the dragon. It wasn't just like the wings, and I didn't want to focus too much on one particular part of the dragon, because we obviously do that in the rest of the poem. And then what I came up with, I started putting together some sentences, just using those words. But what I found is each sentence, I just wasn't sure that it was the best it could possibly be. So I played around a bit with the phrases and moved them, because obviously we know that we can move phrases within sentences. So stalking the skies, one phrase. Like a serrated knife, another phrase, but obviously as well that is a simile. The cerulean dragon is a soaring, flaming skeleton. Okay, one thing I just want to note is I've incorrectly put that comma in. Okay, because the soaring and flaming, they're the adjectives and there's the noun. So I shouldn't have put that there. I just want to point that out. So stalking the skies like a serrated knife, the cerulean dragon is a soaring, flaming skeleton. I then tried to change it around a bit. So as you can see, I've just moved certain phrases to different parts of the sentence. I have had to change tenses ever so slightly, so just bear that in mind, and different words. So I've now got like a serrated knife, the cerulean dragon is a soaring, flaming skeleton that stalks the skies. Again, incorrect, comma, note that. Then lastly, I came up with a soaring, flaming skeleton, like a serrated knife, the cerulean dragon stalks the skies. So when I read them all back and I was working through this presentation, and I tried out the 3 different types, for me, the sentence that I just felt was the most effective was the final sentence. So, a soaring, flaming skeleton, like a serrated knife, the cerulean dragon stalks the skies. So I've chosen that as my initial sentence. It took me a long time to come up with that sentence. I've really pondered over the word choice. I pondered over where the phrases worked best. So just keep that in mind when you do yours. It's not just as easy as just getting a sentence for the sake of it. Remembering we want you to get noticed. So really put effort into thinking about your vocabulary choices and how you are structuring your sentence to make it the most effective sentence possible. Okay, so your job now. Create your own introductory sentence and ending sentence. You might want to do that at the end, but just remember the ending sentence is the same as the introductory sentence because it is a general overview of the dragon. Okay? So you can do that at the end after you've done all the in-betweeny bits if you like. But this is a good time to just grab those images of those dragons and start your introductory sentence. Do what I did. Think about those words, first of all, for the different sections. What good verbs, what background, think about different overall descriptors, and then do your introduction. Okay, so this is just a recap. Last week, we looked at different types of figurative language. So we looked at onomatopoeia, those words that sound like what they are. Personification, when you give human qualities to an object or a thing. And then the shape, when we looked at the different shapes of things, and we linked that to similes and metaphors. And they were the 4 different types of figurative language that hopefully you included in your sentences on Friday. Just as a quick recap, I wrote these sentences. The dragon's thorny spine threatening to attack stands in enraged crescent moons. Enraged crescent moons is a metaphor because I've said they're standing, again, enraged crescents. Threatening to attack is personification because attacking and threatening to attack is often that you would link that to a human quality, not that of a thorny spine. Then we had its wide charcoal wings, as dark as a black hole, whip ferociously through the angry night sky. So we have the simile with the wings compared to a black hole. We then had onomatopoeia for the word whip, because you can hear the sound that the wings are making. And then we have angry night sky, which again, anger's been associated with the night sky. So this time, because those are your sentences from the other day, I'd like you to think of your weakest sentences and I'd like you to try and change them. So you definitely all made a great start, but what I want you to now do is just be a bit reflective and think, which ones can I make better? Which ones are my weakest sentences? Okay. So now I want you to use your senses. So I focused on the smell, see, we've kind of covered, and hearing. So particularly, I love the idea of what you can smell about the dragon and what the dragon would smell like. So some of the ones that I came up with was, first of all, I typed in smell into a thesaurus and then I came up with different words. So like stench, reek and odour were 3 different words, which I thought were great opportunities to really captivate the dragon being smelly. And I didn't just put smelly or pongy. I really thought about my word choices to make sure that they were effective for the purpose of the task. So I put the stench of residue, acrid smoke from its jaws. Hopefully you've recognised that the word acrid, I've actually magpied that from Pi Corbett. He used it before. So just bear that in mind. Then I've got reeking odour of charred embers choking the air. So reeking odour of charred embers. So I'm relating that to the fact that for me, this is smoking and this is on fire. So charred embers. Embers is another word for fire. And charred is burning. Okay. Choking the air. So hopefully you've recognised that choking the air is actually personification. So reeking odour of charred embers choking the air. The stench of residue, so leftover acrid smoke from its jaws. So residue, leftover acrid smoke, I'm imagining that the dragon has roared fire and the smoke's the residue in its jaws. Then thumping of wings. So again, it's that onomatopoeia. I can hear the thumping of winds, the screeching of its roar, the burning cobalt inferno crackling within its diaphragm. So this sentence took me a long time to think of. Cobalt is another colour for blue, a synonym for blue, sorry. So it's burning because it's like the flames. Inferno is another word for fire. And then it's that crackling noise I can hear within its diaphragm. So obviously the diaphragm in the human body is what contains, it's the bit underneath the rib cage, but it might put within its rib cage. Actually, that might have suited this better. What I'd like you to note as well is, as I've done this, I've been writing my sentences. They've actually taken me a really long time. But as I'm going through this presentation, I'm noticing little bits of things that I could either make even better or, for example, the incorrect use of the comma. So please note and please be reflective as you're reading through your work as well. Okay, so from this, I got to this. And I've written 2 sentences that I actually really like. about the skin and the jaws. So, the reeking odour of its burning flesh chokes the innocent air that it slices through. The stench of residue acrid smoke leaks from its leering jaw, waiting to scorch its next victim. So leering is another word for grinning. So it's a grinning jaw, because I felt like the dragon looked like it was quite happy with itself. So the stench of leftover acrid smoke leaks from its grinning jaw, waiting to scorch its next victim. So I also have that juxtaposition, which we learned about last week, of grinning, that leering there, and its next victim. So it's obviously happy about what it's doing. And then I've got my 2 sentences from last week. So from that, I then started thinking about my poem. So I've started building up some sentences. These are my ones about the different body parts here. And then obviously I've got my introductory sentence. I haven't got them all here. I've left some. These are just examples for you. So I wanted to talk to you about the spine poem, because that's what you're doing. So it builds on a list poem, but what it means in simple terms is that you make a list of the parts of the dragon's body, which we did here. This is our list of the parts of the dragon's body. And then, so you've got the head, eyes, scales, claws, tail, etc. You use that to create a simple poem where you take each part of the dragon to create a line or a sentence about that part. It's really easy to do, as you can see. So, first line introduces subject to the reader. So I've talked to you about an introductory sentence. That's your first line. So here we have, the dragon pauses, still as granite. Okay, Pysa Corbett spoke to you about that. Then we describe key details in turn. So for example, the eyes, tail, scales, jaw, teeth, claws, wings, etc. So each part is a different sentence. We then use well-chosen adjectives, powerful verbs, use of similes to build a picture. We draw, sketch an outline of something such as the spikes. Well, in my mind, we do that in our minds, but you could actually do that so that you can see the shape, which will help you form those images. Using a simile such as the eye is like a pearl, you can generate an adjective. So that would be an expanded noun phrase, the pearl eye instead. The eye is like a pearl, the pearl eye. Okay. Sometimes expanded noun phrases may work better rather than always using similes. So just think about if you can do that. So here we've got Pye Corbett's version. So the dragon pauses still as granite. Its empty eyes stare dark as space diamonds. A tense tail curls round glittering gems. Its rusted scales scrape together as it slithers towards you. It opens stale jaws and a row of jagged teeth click and clack. The dragon's claws dig into plates of gold and rustles silver coins. Leathery wings stretch, catching the wind's uplift, swirling into the sky, leaving behind a glimmer of fiery breath, a shimmer of fear. So, here you've got your end sentence, your introductory sentence. Then these parts are all about the different parts of the dragon. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to start putting yours together. So I've shown you a version that I've started doing. These were my 3 introductory sentences. And as I said, my favourite one was the one at the end. So I've decided that I'm going to use a soaring flaming skeleton like a serrated knife. The cerulean dragon stalks the skies. I feel like I'm setting the scene. Obviously in Pye Corbett's poem, from this, where it says, the dragon pauses. For me, it's seen someone enter a cave. And then the dragon's claws dig into plates of gold and rustle silver coins. So again, there, you know it's protecting some sort of treasure. So I've introduced mine straight away, giving an image of the dragon, but saying it's stalking the skies. I've then got my sentences that I've written. You will have more. Please check their sentences. Don't just write an expanded noun phrase. Check their sentences. Okay, so this is the start of my poem. All of this I've just brought together from the things that I've spoken to you about today and last Friday. So, a soaring, flaming skeleton Like a serrated knife, the cerulean dragon stalks the skies. The reeking odour of its burning flesh chokes the innocent air that it slices through. The stench of residue acrid smoke leaks from its leering jaw, waiting to scorch its next victim. The dragon's thorny spine, threatening to attack, stands in enraged crescent moons. Its wide charcoal wings, as dark as a black hole, whip ferociously through the angry night sky. Okay, so I put ... because my poem isn't actually finished. But it's a good basis for you to start on. So that introductory sentence, and then I start flesh, jaw, spine, wings. I'm now doing my list part where I'm talking about each individual part of the dragon. Mine would continue. So, things that you can do to use language powerfully. You can sit in total silence, have focused concentration, write hard and fast, give a time limit of 10 minutes to create a sense of urgency. It says no dictionaries or thesauruses. I started without a dictionary or thesaurus, and then I got to a stage where I really felt that I would benefit from changing some of my vocabulary. So I did use them. So I would ignore that one. Try to start without it and then build on what you know, what you have. Have your best go at spelling and put a dotted line underneath this word if you're not sure about it. Don't dodge words because you can't spell it. Use a dictionary. Draw on shared writing for pattern. So that's my shared writing is this, because we can't do it together. That's our shared writing. So magpie some ideas. Use and toolkit. That's poorly written. That's not actually me. Draw on and move beyond the class brainstorm. You can do better than that. All you need to do is really sit and think about it. So your task, write a dragon spine poem. Consider the scene. Is your dragon flying, sat on gold in a cave, sat on gold, in a cave, in mountains? This will help you imagine its position. So, for example, the wing position will differ depending on the scene, as I said at the beginning. Write your introduction sentence and end sentence. Between these, have a sentence for each body part. That's your list part. Once complete, read your poem aloud. Are your sentences in the best possible order? Are they actual sentences? Really consider that. Have you used the correct grammar, spelling and punctuation? Check these using a dictionary online if necessary. I prefer that you did use a dictionary online because it will make life easier when you go to put it onto the blog. Okay, and that is it. I'm really excited to read your poems. I'm around all day if you need help, but just try and follow this through and then you will have great ideas. Just imagine you're in a lesson. Okay, you can use this to help build yours together. All right, can't wait to read them all. Good luck.